It's DIY with the Doyles. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We hope you guys are doing well. We're so excited that you came to join us this week for our quick fixes. So there are a couple of things around the house that you're so awkward. Quick, what was that? Anyway, there are a couple of things around our home that we did to make our home just a little bit more comfy, kind of lessen the chaos of our home, and I think bring a little bit more cohesion to who we are as a couple and our family, and just what we want our home to represent, which is always just warmth and joy and happiness. And so for me, those things require organization.
They really do. And cohesion. I really like that word. That was a fun word.
Cohesion.
So the very first thing that we ever did when we bought this house 2 years ago to bring that sense of order and cohesion was we looked at replacing all of our light fixtures in our house. So we bought the house 2 years ago, like we've said, and we actually got a little bit of money back from our closing. So what we did is we just took that money and we poured it right back into the house.
Yeah.
It was a very easy way for us because we weren't really expecting to get really anything back. And so it was kind of a nice surprise. So we were like, well, we knew we wanted to change some things, and you know, we had thought that we would just have to wait, but we were like, well, let's go ahead and do it now. So it was...
We ran over to our favorite store.
Oh, yes. We went to Lowe's.
We went to Lowe's.
That will be a
Not
running
sponsored.
theme. Yeah, be a very running theme here. We went to Lowe's. We got a new light fixture for our dining room, for our entryway, for our two of our bathrooms that we knew needed to change pretty quickly, and the light above our stairs. And then on a random outing to a model home, which you guys might not know this about us. That is one of our favorite things to do, is to just go and look at model homes. We started doing that when we were dating, and not even like we were looking for a place to buy. Like literally, date night for us was, hey, I saw a model home while I was driving up here. Let's go check it out.
Let's go!
And that was like an adventure. It was just like we would go and we would literally walk in and tell them, we're just looking. We just like looking at model homes. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And they would just let us go and walk around. And that's one of the things that we actually still enjoy doing to this day. But one day we went and we were looking at a model home, and we noticed this one light fixture that was throughout this house, and it matched the fixtures in our house perfectly. And we didn't see it at Lowe's when we first went there, but we literally left that model home and drove to Lowe's, and we found the light because we had one light in our little hallway area that we were like, this would be perfect in there. So we went through, and that was the first thing that we were like, okay, let's change these light fixtures. And I like to tell everybody that we talk to that the dining room light almost ended our relationship before it started.
It did not almost end our relationship. Now, it might have ended that evening for us.
It almost did.
But it did not end our relationship. We just got very frustrated with each other. It was really my fault. I wanted to get things done. When I want to get things done, I want to get things done.
It just has to happen.
It's just the way that it is. I wanted to put the light up. I was super excited about buying our home. And we got the keys, and I was like, yay, let's go to Lowe's, let's change everything, let's change these lights. They're ugly, yay. And so we were...
That was exactly how the conversation went.
Pretty much. And so we started the journey. We didn't really know what we were doing at first. Of course, always use safety precautions, but also have help if you need it. We definitely ended up calling my brother, who is a licensed electrician, and he was able to walk us through some steps because we were missing some, obviously.
It was really just one step. Because our house was older, the wiring was a little bit different than some of the modern fixtures. And so we wired everything back the way it was, but that's not how it needed to be.
For the new light.
For the new light.
Right.
He walked us through understanding what needed to be where, and then it turned on. Now, some of the other things that happened were just normal first time things that you may not always know.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to give you a couple of quick things.
Yes.
When you go to change light fixtures, first tip, do not I repeat, do not change lights after the sun goes down.
Yeah, because you can't see.
You really can't.
And we didn't even think about that
until we're both standing there holding our flashlights on our cell phones.
We're like,
up at the ceiling, like, can you see? Can you see?
Oh,
and one
so
of us
ridiculous.
is like looking at the other one, like, no, I can't see. Move it to the left. So, first tip:
do them during the day.
Do them during the day.
Yes.
Second tip: measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
So we were looking at this very long wire that came on this light, and we were like,
it's our grounding wire, essentially.
Well, it was all the wires, and we were just like, we don't need this much, and we just cut. And then we get the light up.
It'll fit.
And it fit until we had to run everything through properly, and then we were just a little too short. So then we ended up having to splice the wires. We learned a lot.
We learned a lot on our first light.
In this first light.
Now, we're practically electricians. We can change no, we're not. But we're good at changing lights.
We learned a lot of lessons from that one. And like we do like to tell people, if you're, starting a relationship, try a project together.
Yes.
Because one of the things that it really helped us understand was how each of us read instructions, how we solve problems when they arise, and, how we interpret little images on the paper. Because some of these instructions, it just shows you a picture and it doesn't actually tell you what to do. And so it's like you learn things about each other as you're doing these projects. And I think that's kind of like the thing that I don't think we knew back then that has really gotten us to where we are now is like doing these things together has really helped us understand a little bit more about each other and how we can relate to each other and help each other do everything, not even just putting up a light, but do the laundry or do dishes or whatever. Like, we've learned a lot about each other just by doing little things together.
And sometimes you can learn that you don't want to do things together. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
No.
I literally have friends that are like, look, if my husband and I do something DIY in our home, it really will end us. Like, we are the types of people that we're going to call a contractor, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just think for us,
it just works.
It just works. Yeah.
So that was, the dining room was the first one. And then the last one was the light over the stairs, which, shout out to my dad. He came through in the clutch. Like, and I will tell you, I gained a few brownie points because Bayina was having a day. We were
full on mood.
Like, it was a full on day. and the beauty is, like, we know it, we recognize it, we can admit it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where we had people coming over, she was excited, she wanted everything to be just right, just the way it needed to be. But this one light, like, by this time we had changed all the other ones that we had bought 2 years ago. Mind you, 2 years ago, we bought all these lights. Fast forward to 2 months ago.
Right, when we finally changed the last one.
We got the last one done. Bayina looked at me, and without saying it, was basically like, I want this light up 2 years ago. And I read that look on her face, and I said, I'm going to call help. So I called my dad. He brought over a ladder. He was dangling from the ladder, and I'm dangling from the other end. And I'm making this sound like Mission Impossible, like really dramatic. It wasn't that dramatic, but it was one of those things, like, it took us a couple hours because of where the light sits.
It's in a really awkward spot.
Yeah.
And I feel like when they originally hung that light up in the hallway, they probably did it before they put the stairs in.
Yeah.
And so because the stairs were actually there now, hanging a new light fixture was just...
It was just...
awkward.
It was awkward, which is why it sat for 2 years.
Yeah, because we really didn't know how to do it, because we would have changed it if we felt like we could reach it. But
it's way up there.
Yeah, it's way up there. It's just in a
the
very
pictures
awkward
don't
spot.
do it justice as far as how high up there it is.
Yeah.
So that was the last light we did, and it was one of those things. Is literally as soon as it was done, and I looked at Bayina and I said, "Okay, go ahead, flip the switch," and she flipped the switch, and it was just like. It was a culmination of like 2 years worth of a project finally done, and then She knew our house would be the way she wanted it for people coming over. And so it was just a win all the way around. Another shout out that we do have to give is to Uncle Peter, because he helped us with the 2 bathroom lights. And so this is why we've said we are not opposed to calling for help.
No, wave the white flag.
Like we are not professionals, but we know that there are some things that we can do, and then we know that there are people that know how to do it better.
Yeah.
So we call them.
Right.
And sometimes that means calling somebody that you have to pay. And luckily, most of the people, we just pay them with food.
Yes.
So
I can cook. Yay.
So we actually have a couple more lights that we're gonna bribe Uncle Peter with more food to come back and help us with. Yeah. That's like quick fix number 1.
Yes.
Change light fixtures. Now it's not always the cheapest.
It's right. It's not.
So that's kind of the rub on this one. It's not always the cheapest, but it is a very quick way to change the look of your house from something that might be old and ugly like ours was, to
Very
something
ugly.
kind of new and modern that gives it a little bit more life and freshness. Or you could go the other way around and go from something that's a little bit more modern and contemporary and give it that rustic feel, if that's what you like. A light fixture is an easy way to do that. But just know sometimes you got to budget out what you want depending on how many light fixtures you need to change.
Yes.
The second quick fix that is also what we found to be a really energy saving option is right behind us, these nifty shades. Yeah. So we went around and we changed all of the blinds in our house, but we started with these because they started breaking.
Breaking. We needed a little bit more filtering of light within this space at the time. Yeah. And they really they weren't all that nice looking. I mean, everything in the home, for the most part, it really looked like what was originally there, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it leaves you the opportunity to put your own stamp on the space. But the blinds in the house, none of the blinds in the house match. So some of the ones in here, they were plastic. The ones in the kitchen were plastic. The ones upstairs were metal. The ones downstairs were broken and brown. They just, nothing matched. So again, there was a lot of mixed match stuff going on in the home, which for me visually was just very chaotic. So when I say that the home was chaotic, I say that because chaos to me is not seeing cohesion. And I feel like in a space that didn't have everything the same. Now, all of the blinds in our home aren't the same color. These just happen to work the best for this space. And then the rest of the home is more of a grayish tone. So you just have to play off what's really going to work in the space. It's a really easy way to make your home more energy efficient. I know for us, we were having issues with the temperature because the sun from the front of our home will blare in throughout the day. Now, when the sun is coming in midday and we are just trying to get a break from all that beautiful sunlight, we can in our home now.
Mostly that heat, because our upstairs used to get about 10 degrees hotter than the main level,
and it was miserable,
and it was just really uncomfortable. So we started with the shades here in the living room, and after we realized that changing these really made a difference just on this main level, we started budgeting for the blinds upstairs. We had to budget because, as you can see, the blinds upstairs are much bigger. Those windows are 70 by 70
our
or
bedroom
60
windows,
by 70.
Yeah, our bedroom is 70 by 70.
They're not the size that you can just walk into your local Lowe's and pick up off the shelf. These you could.
Yeah.
So we had to go online. We had to type in the size that we needed, and we actually ended up getting them like a couple of months after we got these, and they were, starting to go on sale a little bit, which kind of scared us because we were like, we really like these.
Right.
We need all of them.
And we hadn't finished our house yet. We hadn't finished all the windows because we were like, we'll start up here and then we'll budget. Yeah. And then, which there's nothing wrong with budgeting.
We stand by that.
We stand by that. Don't get us wrong. Yeah. But sometimes you do have to make a purchase when you get a good deal to make sure that all of the windows in your home are covered, because if they're not, like what we found with these, like we'll definitely link these down below if we can find them or something similar to what we have. But we found them that, whenever you start to see things go on sale, on clearance, it's like, let's make sure that we have all of these, because if they're pushing any inventory out and you no longer have access to what you've already put up in your house, then you might feel like you need to spend more money now because nothing's going to match again. So again, I've already come out of this non-matching phase. I refuse to go back into it.
Exactly.
So we had to bite the bullet.
Moving ahead.
Yes.
So that was quick fix number 2.
Quick fix number 2.
The third quick fix, again, this one is just purely aesthetic. So for us,
it's not a need.
It's definitely not a need.
It's not a need.
But it's one of those things of, if you want to do something that is really quick, really easy, and actually will have a lasting impact on the feel of your home, change some doorknobs.
Yes, you would think that sounds like change some doorknobs. Change some doorknobs. So when we first got into this house, like you said, one of the first things that we did were change any of the exterior doors because, of course, previous people had lived here. I don't know who has keys.
We don't know these folks.
So we changed all of those immediately. That was the first thing that we did. But it took us a little bit more time to actually change all of the doorknobs within the interior of the home. Our house was made a while ago in the 90s. It's not that long ago, but it's long enough that the styles have definitely changed.
Yeah.
And so in our home, one side was gold, one side was silver on the same door.
Yeah.
And it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And so because we had already changed all of the exterior doors to satin nickel, we just went ahead and changed all of the interior doors to satin nickel. We had to wait on this because when we first decided that we wanted to do it, doorknobs were like at an astronomical price. And we were like, what? We're not spending money on this. We could just live with it. And that's, you know,
she was ready to live with it.
I was ready to live with it.
She says that, but she scoffed at the door every time she had to open it. I don't understand.
Because it just doesn't make any sense. Who does that? Why would you put one color on one side? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. So anyway, we ended up changing all of the doorknobs, and we ended up changing our front door as well. Because our front door was honestly, it wasn't gold or silver. It was brass. Rusty brass. And it just wasn't attractive. Like, we had even tossed around the idea of repainting our door to kind of bring some new life to it, and then we decided, why don't we just get a new door handle? Like, after we had changed all of the doors in the house, and I was looking at that one knob at our front door, I was like, it's so ugly. Like, we can't change all of the doorknobs in our home and then not change the front door.
And I think it was really great that we were able to find one that was very similar to the old one.
Yes. We did have to stay within brand.
Yeah, we had to stay in brand because
we tried to go cheaper. Like, oh yeah, this is on Amazon. It's fine. We just go cheaper. Yeah. It didn't fit.
We had to return a couple knobs.
We had to return a few.
Because the way the holes lined up, again, we wanted this to be a quick fix.
Yes.
So quick for us meant like 3 weeks because, well, it was a week and a half because we got a knob.
We had to send
it back.
We got another one.
We put it on the door, but it didn't fully fit.
It didn't fit.
And then we sent that one back.
Then we drilled holes.
Yeah.
So we had to fit.
So
it's like, hey guys, DIY projects means you're gonna make mistakes.
So that was quick fix number 3.
Okay, and number 4.
The fourth one that we wanted to talk about today. So we've been tossing around this idea of painting a bathroom.
Yes, that's true. It did all start with the bathroom.
This is how this final project came about.
Yeah. So when we moved into the house, our house was freshly painted.
Yes.
And that was really great for me because honestly, I do think that paint can be incredibly transformative for a very inexpensive price.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of painting, but because I had painted so much previously, I decided that I wanted to bring color in through artwork and furniture items, and I just wanted to leave the walls white. Like, they were freshly painted, they had just gotten done. I didn't want to even think about paint. The kids were like, yeah, I want to paint our rooms. I was like, no, you don't. We'll get you some colored curtains. So the kids' room has a lot of different color in there. Oh, foreshadowing as well. But next week we have some updates on that. But for the kids' space, we brought in a lot of color again through items, bedspreads, curtains, different things like that, pillows. But we decided jointly, and by we decided, I mean Charles and I decided that we're not painting anything. And so we were like, we want to bring some color into the home, but something was lacking. And so what we ended up deciding to do was to paint the chair rail, which honestly, Charles came up with that idea because at first I was like, oh, we can just paint the bottom half of the room. Like, that'll be fine. And Charles was like, the bottom half? He was like, why don't you just paint the chair rail? In my mind, I was like, paint the chair rail, paint the chair rail. You know, that's not a bad idea. So painting in and of itself is not that hard.
No.
It's the taping that takes time. So for me, honestly, painting this space took about 4 hours or so, and that's honestly because I spent a lot of time taping. And then making sure my strokes are right. I did 2 full coats, so you have to wait for them to dry in between. And so some of that time wasn't just me painting for 4 hours, because honestly, it's not that big of a space that I needed to be painting for 4 hours.
And some of it was you painted the chair rail, then you were like, I've got all this paint.
Right, because we bought we bought a quart, and we were like, oh, it's not gonna be. I'm gonna be able to use all this for the chair rail. I finished painting everything, and it was like I hadn't used any paint in the can.
We probably could have gotten away with like the sample size.
I know, and because I don't like
painted,
right, and I don't like wasting anything. Yeah. Like, so again, I'm not a wasteful person, and so I'm like, I have all this paint, and I'm looking around, and we were like, okay, the chair rail's done. Why don't we paint the ledge? Like, so originally when we came into this home, there were actually shutters here. And those things came down as soon as I got my hand on the screwdriver because they were ugly. Yeah. And so we took those off immediately. I shaved everything down. I filled anything in that I needed to. And then I was able to go back over it with my sander and then paint over that space. And at first what we did was we just painted the space right there in the dining room. But then Charles made the suggestion that I bring that color also into the kitchen space because they're kind of connected. And honestly, that changes the entire vibe.
And then once we did that, we still had a lot of paint left.
We still had a lot of paint left.
So as you can see, we have this half wall.
Yeah.
We were just like, okay, what about painting the top of it?
Right.
Like, so for us, it was really just like, let's kind of break up some of the
monotony of the white.
We decided for us to kind of liven up the space a little bit, let's add a pop of color.
And honestly, after we did it, we literally looked at each other and we were like, we don't know how we haven't done something like this before. Like, it honestly fit so well that we were just like, man, this was the best decision we could have made in terms of painting. It's
almost like we don't even remember what it looked like.
We don't remember what it like. I look at before pictures and I'm like, this looks really bare and odd, and it doesn't have as much character. So that's another thing. Quick tip: paint can bring a lot of character. Yeah. It says something, and that's why there's so many different shades and colors and finishes. Like, picking out a paint color is a task because it really does decide the mood in that space.
So I mean, those are, I think, all the quick fixes that we have for this one. Again, it's all about what you think fits your style the best. Whether it's something a little bit more modern and classy, or rustic and just kind of whatever vibe you're going for. Add a pop of color through some paint.
Add a pop of color. I'm all for a pop of color. Yeah. Like, you're gonna understand very quickly that I live in color, boy. I love it. I really do. Like, black is always gonna be the staple, but I love a quick pop of color, and I think that it does a lot to anything, not just your home, but to your outfits, your anything like that. And so I like color.
Those are our top 4 quick fixes to give your homes a little bit more life and a little bit more fun and a little bit more of your character.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Next week we've got a really big surprise.
I'm so excited.
So make sure you tune in next week. Hit that notification bell so that you know when we've posted, because you're not going to want to miss this one next week. All right, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.